Ladies and gentlemen, morons are gaslighting America. Morons are gaslighting America. So, the question is, how do we protect America from morons? Now, if you're a left-winger watching this, you're thinking, yeah, those MAGA morons, they're so dumb, they're so stupid, those right-wingers, they're so dumb. Right? That's what you're thinking. You want to do it again? Those MAGA, okay, I think you get the point. But here's the thing. This time it's the right wing. What if next time it's the left wing? Now, Cuomo has this crazy idea of the left-wing crazies. LC is so crazy, and this guy Mondavi he's gonna be the New York City mayor. And the left has gone too far. That's what Cuomo, Chris Cuomo has to say. He's freaking out. The left has gone crazy. They've got a left-wing Trump and extremism and radical. And they're just nuts. Now, I greatly disagree with his comments, especially in this time when we have some actual legitimate nuts people in the Republican Party doing all kinds of nonsense. And in this moment, he wants to talk about AOC is crazy. Okay. But why I bring that up is because imagine a case where that is the case, which could very well happen, right? Here's the bottom line. I know a lot of left-wing folks that like to think that the right wing is they're uniquely stupid. And there's certainly a really low IQ part of the population that's definitely attracted to Donald Trump. I don't know why it is. There's something about him. Let me wait for this red light because my back is all jacked up. There's something about his rhetoric, his style that just attracts some of the dumbest people, but that's not his entire base. There's people who are attracted to him who are not dumb, who are actually pretty smart. But what we've learned, right? Because people want to think that right wingers are just uniquely stupid, but I think it's an American thing. It's a failure of our education. So the reality is that Americans are lacking in critical thinking and very emotional, which makes them easy targets for manipulation. So, although the left would like to think that they're so much smarter, I can guarantee you the right person with the right rhetoric. I mean, the fact that they were pushing Cornel West as long as they were, oh man, this is horrible. I can't even look over my shoulder. I took my workouts a little bit too extreme. The fact that they were pushing Cornel West as long as they were after the stuff that we knew, I think is proof enough that you can definitely manipulate and gas up a lot of people on the left. And someone with enough charisma, a little bit more let's just say a little bit more intelligent than Cornel West seems to be in his latter years. And one of the issues with him was just people were really caught up in his past. It's just like the Matt Taibbi and other people like that. People, when you critique these people, they man, this guy he was one of the best journalists and he won awards, and it's like, okay, yeah, if you're supporting that guy, fine, but that's not the guy that we have today. Like the Matt Taibbi of today is not the same from back in the day when he did some really good reporting, right? The Cornel West of back in the day that a lot of these left-wingers remember, like that guy is gone, man. The guy we have now, oh my goodness, that's who you want to, like with all the craziness that's been going on in this country, with the right wing, Democratic Party just being an absolute joke. That's your dude. And again, how many insane things did he need to do for them to be like, okay, this is crazy, this guy's nuts, this is not our guy? But it's like thing after thing after thing, and they just kept justifying it, and it's like they were so desperate for a leader that they would take anything. And that to me makes them subject to the right guy could really, really pull them along pretty far before they wake the hell up. So you could have, like, Cuomo is pretending like right now we have a left-wing Trump. We do not even close. But an actual left-wing Trump could manipulate a ton of people on the left for quite some time, just taking advantage of lack of critical thinking, people being too emotional, and propaganda, with social media. So that brings us to our question. I just say that because I know people would want to listen to the video and be like, oh, MAGA, MAGA. And hey, I did start the video with that perspective, and I said, what is it, morons? Morons are gaslighting America. I say that because they're the current ones that are really, really, they're the ones who are taking this country over the cliff. And it's so weird. All the same, at the same time, they are massively projecting that it's everybody else, right? They're the ones saving the country from the other people who are insane. It's just this is one of the dynamics I really hate about the toxic politics we have. It's where you blah blah blah, no you blah blah blah, no you blah blah blah, no you blah blah blah, or as I like to say, I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? It's so insane. So if you're not really paying that much attention and you're not exactly what do you call it? You're not exactly the deepest level thinker, it can be super confusing, man. Like, who do you believe? Because you hear both sides seeming to say the same exact thing, right? You listen to the MAGA people, and it's the left, they're destroying this country, and we're not going to have a country anymore if you let these guys, whatever, and they're going to make everybody trans or whatever it is. And then if you listen to folks on the left, it's like they're saying exactly the same thing. I mean, not literally, but it's like, the right wing, they're destroying this country and this and that and whatever. And America's democracy is gone. So for people not paying attention, it's just kind of like, it's all the same stuff. And like, I don't know who to believe, blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line is both sides. And I see Asian man is in the house. Eat, casket, poop, blah, blah, blah. You talk like that. I do. So back to the question of the video. How do we protect America from morons? Right? Because this is not even a trivial question. This is pretty serious. Because like I said, right now it's the right wing, but in the future it could be the left wing, right? The left wing has some charismatic Donald Trump scam artist fraud, and just a really, really corrupt person, disgusting person, and a person that is super reckless and gonna do a lot of damage to the country. But this person has the left so caught up, like whatever it is that they really want, all the talking points, housing for all and inequality, blah blah blah, and put an end to racism, and we don't have time for this parliamentarian excuse that the Democratic Party, no excuses, get it done, da, 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 and then get them all like, wow, this is the guy, and you do some slick videos online, some social media videos, and you're going viral, and then you start gassing up a lot of these people in the media, right? Like I would say the thing to do would be you kind of have an adversarial approach to mainstream media to play like you're some kind of outsider, and you start gassing up these independent channels. you can suss out the ones who are the most dishonest ones, and then you pay them off behind the scenes in different ways. You could directly or indirectly compensate them, but you know that a lot of these YouTubers, like, they'll do anything for money, man. They'll promote any product or whatever it is. So you give them some money, and I mean, look, we literally had on the right wing, they were basically being getting paid by Russia, right? So if that can happen, you can absolutely find some of the most dishonest folks in the left wing or liberal media and pay them off, and don't make it totally like overtly evil, like, you're doing something bad and they know it. You can kind of appeal to their ego and gaslight them, and use the buzzwords, yeah, and inequality and blah 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 blah, right? But the way that you smooth that over is you give them that rhetoric, and then you also give them the money, and they're just like, yeah, money, and they start taking the money. Then you start going on their shows on a regular basis, and if you keep doing the talking points, they'll be promoting you like, this guy is really the guy, and he's not going to stop for the parliamentarian, and he really wants housing for all and inequality and this and that, and all the talking points, and they'll be sitting there promoting you, and the audience will get all like, oh wow, this is the guy, and then they'll promote that person to other people, and this person could really go far using that kind of strategy, just taking advantage of, just, I'm sorry, how stupid a lot of Americans are. I know people like to think it's just the right wing. It's not just the right wing. I'm sorry. You got a lot of idiots on the left as well. So again, this is not trivial, right? Because, in this example that I'm giving right now, what if this person is a person that gets into power and does some real damage? And you're talking about, loss of life, and decades long, harm to the country, passing all kinds of bills that are, they sound good, and it's like, it's pandering to certain group, and they're like, yeah, inequality for all, and all they're seeing is what they want them to see, right? This was exactly what's happening with Trump, right? So you watch all the progressive channels, right, and they're all like, yeah, this guy is the whatever, and he's passing these bills, and then we just highlight the positives of it, right? Some part of it is positive, and they just keep bombarding with, oh, look at all these people that are now off the streets, and you just don't talk about all the damage being caused. There could be way more damage being caused than good that's being happening. But if no one is aware of the bad because no one's reporting on it, then does it really matter? Like, if all you're literally seeing is the left-wing channels you're watching telling you how great things are, and how this new president, this new left-wing progressive president is really getting it done, and then a lot of performative, like, attacks on the Republican Party like you've never seen before. I have some really slick sounding, the Republicans, blah blah blah, but they actually something, whatever it is, and it goes viral. And then all the left-wing channels are like, oh my goodness, the president just dunked on the whatever. And while they're focused on me dunking and whatever performative stuff, and my rhetoric about this, and then me highlighting anything positive at all, I'm highlighting it, I feed it out, they feed it out to the left. So meanwhile, I'm causing real harm to the country, a lot of destruction, a lot of pain and suffering because of my policies. But half the country isn't aware because they're in this bubble, which I am basically controlling with money and this whole manipulation strategy. So, like, that's happening right now from the right, it can also happen on the left, right? And the bottom line is, this is a serious problem, and I don't know what the solution is, because fact of the matter is, there are lots of morons. Morons in America is a bipartisan thing, right? So morons vote, right? Morons are also easy to manipulate and control, like the MAGA movement, right? So I don't know, man. I mean, I think the answer is kind of obvious, and that is that we really need to focus on education, right? Because if you have people that are better educated, better able to control their emotions, right, number one, so they can think more clearly, and then you teach them how to think critically. You teach them manipulation tactics, so they know what they look like, so they're not as susceptible. If this is how we raise our kids in the future, they start from a good place of not being super emotional, right? And more logical, more reasoned, right? And then they have the skills to be able to identify trickery and gaslighting and manipulation tactics, and so they know. So because these guys are not doing anything new, right? A lot of these politicians, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, whatever it is, they're not doing anything new. They're not doing anything super clever, right? So if we were teaching the kids all these tactics, double speak and whatever, and if that was common knowledge, then it would be much harder to fool people, because you have a new generation of people that are not as emotional, that know all the tactics, so they can spot it, like, you're just gaslighting me, or you're da da da, so they can see it, right? And then also to have the ability to think critically. So you train them on how to analyze information. So somebody's framing something in a certain way. So for example, in that analogy that I gave with the crazy left-wing president, I pass some bills, and then I'm going around saying, look at all these positive things happening. But then with a generation of people that are more critical thinkers, they would immediately say, well, what's this person not telling me? First of all, is what they're saying true? So they're claiming that they put 20% of the homeless people off the streets. Okay, is that actually true? That's number one. Then number two, this is what you're saying. You're gonna say to me what you want me to know, what you want me to focus on, right? So what we need to figure out is what you're not telling me, and that's the thing of a critical thinker. So with a generation of kids that are raised this way, they would want to dig deeper. So you're taking 20% of the homeless people off the street, but let me examine this policy and see if I can potentially think about ways that this could be actually causing harm. Like, for example, what happened with me with the rental protections policies that came from COVID, that literally destroyed me financially, because of exactly what we're talking about. There was a focus on keeping people in their homes. There was a focus on evil landlords evicting people unnecessarily or whatever it is, right? So that's the rhetoric. That's all you hear from progressive media. So that's all you're aware of, right? So people like me were suffering in silence, not being reported on, and actually actively being blacklisted. I mean, I was talking to people in left-wing media prior to me reaching out to them about the situation that happened with me, and they all ghosted me, right? One of them pretended, like, I'll say names, the Vanguard, a channel that I donated to many times. On the live stream, they'd be like, yeah, let's talk, blah, blah, blah. And then they just completely ghosted me, right? And I think I had communication with them prior to this. So they actively ran away from exposing the dark side of policies that they promote. So that is a dynamic that could lead an actual, the way Chris Cuomo is describing the new potential mayor of New York City and an AOC, somebody who is literally like the way he's pretending they are, could fool the left, could, if they're slick enough, get into power and become president one day, do a lot of damage to the country, and have a lot of left-wing people and liberals not even be aware of the damage being caused, just like how a lot of Trump supporters have no clue, right? Because I'm sure many of them are not patriots at all whatsoever, but I'm sure some of them do actually love the country and want to do the right thing. And they're just so manipulated and brainwashed that they just don't even fully realize. And again, I clarified that, yes, there's definitely a good amount of MAGA people that do not care about the country or anything else. They're just in a cult. But there's also others who are just generally ignorant, like a lot of people on the left are. Like, that's my main critique when I look at right-wingers and left-wingers in this country. In the right wing, you see a lot of excessive, dishonesty, right? If I'm a moron YouTuber, I would say a lot of knowingly lying, as if there's a way to accidentally lie, right? It's not knowingly lying. there's a lot of lying, right? There's a lot of deception, um, and on the left, what I find is not so much of the lying, more so of the just being naive. I see a lot of left wing. A lot. What I'm talking about is really the media, because the media is really setting. They're the thought leaders and they're giving the ideas to their audiences. But I feel like a lot of the folks in left wing media tend to be far more honest than right wing media, but they're just clueless, right? They're like content creators. They're in the little bubble, and it's all about clicks and views and what's trending, and then all their news and their worldviews coming from their Twitter feeds. So they're following partisan left wingers and liberals that they trust, and then they just like every morning they log in, they look at what's trending, and then they put a video out based on that. So they're very much in a bubble. So there's a lot of stuff that they're just completely clueless to. But I find that the right wingers are actually potentially much more aware. Like I feel like they even more look. I shouldn't say they definitely more look at left wing media than left wing looks at right wing media, in my view, from what I've seen. Because a lot of their channels, that's what it's based on. It's like, oh, it's really anti-liberal content. It's not really conservative content. So they spend a lot of time looking at whatever the left-wing channels are putting out, so they could like dunk on them or like, oh, look at these crazy liberals, right? So that means that with, you know, I go after a lot of these left-wing channels, but the reality is there's a lot of facts and truth that comes out on those channels, and these right-wingers are watching it, so they know, right? So they know the truth, right? So they are intentionally misleading people, right? As opposed to on the left, I feel like they're in a little bubble. They're in a little Twitter bubble. They're not so much looking at I know some people that no, that's not true, because you hear them, they'll mention, you know, oh, they saw Tim Pool or whatever. Of course they look at the right-wing videos, right? I'm not saying they don't, but I don't think they look at it as much as the right wing does, right? Because right wing, their whole thing is, again, it's like dunking on liberals or it's anti-liberal content. So I really feel like the right wing is much more aware of what's going on, but they lie and pretend not to be aware, and they play dumb because they're much more focused on profit, and they're just much more greedy. I mean, look at someone like a Ben Shapiro, the amount of ad placements in his videos. Like, this guy is so rich. He's making so much money, but yet it's never enough for him. He's trying to juice every little dollar out of everything. Like, that's his thing. Money, 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 right? You watch a lot of these left-wing channels, they could be doing that too. And I'm seeing that some of the new ones, unfortunately, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to, like, now there's a whole thing, they're trying to mirror right-wing, like as if that's the answer. Like, oh, so now let's have a left-wing propaganda machine that's as strong as the right-wing propaganda machine. Like, what? So you see, like, some of these, like, Luke Beasley's and Adam Mockler's, and they're now getting into the whole promoting all these products, which I'm telling you, man, most of the time, from my experience, these YouTubers are promoting stuff. It's so fraudulent in terms of they either don't use the product, they don't care for the product, they may not even like the product. The bottom line is they're just like whoever will pay them, right? That's not always the case. I've seen some of them, they have some kind of integrity in who they promote, but I would say a lot of YouTubers, you contact them and you offer them money and they'll promote your garbage product, especially in the right wing, for sure. But, you know, I really think it's a matter of one side is more naive, the other side is more aware, but it's more deceptive. Like, they are intentionally misleading their audience for profit because, again, the levels of greed in right-wing media is just so extreme. But regardless, I think that education is a big deal. I don't know how we get to that place, you know. What is it going to take to get education reform to the point where, you know, we can implement these things where better critical thinking and control of your emotions, and also understanding of gaslighting and manipulation tactics and pandering, even media literacy, man. I mean, think about if kids were growing up with strong media literacy. think about how many of these YouTubers we could bankrupt almost overnight. Like imagine their audiences get older, and as they get older, maybe they are less engaged, right? And if you're unable to get a new crop of new people that are just naive and they're young and they don't know, and then they get caught up in some viral video from Ben Shapiro, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't even know that," and whatever. And the next thing you know, here's a new Ben Shapiro subscriber who is now going to be just brainwashed and completely disconnected from reality. Again, these things can't happen if the kids are smarter, right? So imagine the next generation with them more critical thinkers. So they run into a Ben Shapiro video. Imagine the average 15-year-old to 20-year-old runs into a Ben Shapiro video, and they're like, that argument doesn't stand up. Or they right away recognize, like, wait a minute, look at the title of this video. Like, this guy is clearly trying to manipulate my emotions. Look at the wording he's using, blah, 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 blah. Or whatever it is, just able to recognize the tricks. Like, oh, he's doing this thing and he's doing that thing, and they're like, this guy's a fool, and they just move on. As opposed to what's happening now with what we're teaching kids in school. A guy like Ben Shapiro can easily get them, man. Just tap into, so many things where it's secret knowledge. It's something that everybody else around you doesn't know, right? So all your friends are, let's say you're in a liberal area, and all your friends are all like, pro Democratic Party people, and you're on that side of things, and they have an agreement on certain things, and then Ben Shapiro comes in and says, actually, and then you make some argument that sounds smart, and you're like, ooh, and then it's appealing. Like, now you're gonna go and tell your friends the real truth, and like, oh, actually, did you know that Obama was actually blah, 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 blah? Oh, did you know that Martin Luther King was actually a Marxist? You guys, you should actually look into stuff. And then you feel proud of yourself, like you are smarter than everybody else. Like, that doesn't work when you have a more educated, or better educated rather, group of people. So then you start seeing people like Ben Shapiro, basically his channel failing. All the super partisan channels, just watch their channel just start failing, and their views go down, and best case scenario, they have to shut their channels down and actually get a real job. Anyway, this is the Bateman channel. Debate in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell, be well. Afcel says policy this, policy that, ninja STFU. What does that mean? Single tacos for, I don't know what the U stands for. Umbrellas? That doesn't make any sense. What does that mean? Focus on us in Israel first. Focus on, I guess you mean US in Israel. What? Holy shit. RuPaul, what's up? Says Zodiac Killer. This talking to yourself doesn't seem healthy, bro. It could be the drugs, man. I'm hopped up, man. And it says that this thing can cause severe liver bleeding or something. Gotta love it. Asian man Dion. I don't know why this guy's posting that over and over again. Talk like that. Eat casket. Hot dog in a bowl. Hot dog in a bowl. Okay. Asian man. Debate Dion. Said hi. Hey Darren, good to see you, man. Muma, water source from Dion is okay. Asian number 3, number 2. Hello King. Muma says, I ain't no king, man. You look like Denzel Washington. I don't know about that, man. All right, guys. Until next time. Ciao.